friends. Um, just a quick reminder that Amanda and I will be away this Sunday at the Western New York Pastor and Spouses Retreat in Chautauqua County. We're really looking forward to that. We are looking forward to a little bit of rest, both from responsibilities here at the church, but also parenting and school and all of that stuff. Looking for just a 2-day break is going to be a really welcome thing. So I appreciate those of you who've been praying for us, and ask that you continue to do so, that we would find some rest, that we would make some good connections too with many of the folks here in the district as we continue to foster new relationships with pastors here. Again, a thank you to Marcus for stepping in to preach this Sunday. Got to connect with him a little bit earlier this week, and I'm looking forward to what he has to share with us. We are going to be continuing in our season of Epiphany as we've been digging into these stories in Luke's gospel that have there's these little moments where we catch a glimpse of Jesus's glory. And this week we're going to be digging into a familiar story as well, where Jesus calls Simon Peter to be his disciple. It's a story in Luke chapter 5. And those of you who have been in my office will probably remember seeing this painting here. This is a painting of that story that was a gift to me from dear friend, Pastor Steve Shank. He's a pastor that really shaped me significantly during the years that we lived in Buffalo. He's someone who really helped me discern a call to pastoral ministry, someone I worked alongside as a pastor at the Buffalo Vineyard Church. And he and I would talk about this story quite a bit, primarily because one of the conversations we had often was about the intersection of vocation and ministry, and how sometimes we get this skewed a little bit, where we think that only pastors are people who do ministry, or only other types of church callings are people who actually do ministry. But that idea is not something that we find in the life and teaching of Jesus. And the story in Luke 5 is a pretty great example of that. I mean, in it we see Jesus sort of teaching on the coastline of the Sea of Galilee, and this big crowd is crushing in around him, which happened often. And he kind of calls out to these two people with their boats. One of them is Simon Peter, and he asks them to let him basically stand in his boat and push off from shore so he has some space, and so that the water from the Sea of Galilee could be like a natural amphitheater. And after he's done teaching, he tells Simon Peter, he's like, push out into deep water and see if you can't catch some fish. And kind of presuming that they've already been fishing and haven't had any luck, and that's why they're kind of sitting on the shoreline. Simon Peter's sort of like, I mean, don't you think we've tried that? And Jesus tells him to do it again, and they catch this huge amount of fish. So much so that Peter is overwhelmed, and essentially he recognizes Christ's glory through that. And he essentially falls on his knees and tells Christ to go away. He's like, I'm a sinful man, like you should be far from me. And instead, Jesus invites him to get closer. Jesus instead says, follow me and I'll make you fishers of men instead. And it's just a fascinating intersection, I think, of like what Pastor Steve and I used to talk quite a bit about, of this intersection of vocation and ministry. Jesus did not call some young, promising rabbinical students to be his disciples. He called some ordinary people who had very ordinary jobs. And that has big implications for how we live our lives. if Jesus calls fishermen in the first century, that means that Jesus calls fishermen in the 21st century too. But that means he also calls like truck drivers and farmers and janitors and teachers, all sorts of, bus drivers, postal service workers. I mean, you name it. That's the people that Jesus calls to be his disciples. And the invitation is not just to come and learn from Jesus. The invitation is to go and employ your vocation for his kingdom, to make you fishers of men. And that's something that we should never lose sight of. Ministry is not just mine to do as your pastor, or it's not just any pastor's job to do. It's the church's job to do. It's Jesus's followers' job to do, to go out and spread the good news, help people find healing, draw people into the kingdom of God. And it should fill us with joy. It's the kind of thing that puts meaning and purpose in an otherwise frustrating and mundane vocation. So I hope that is just an encouragement for you, just something to sort of chew on and pray about and think about as we go into this weekend. Just that Jesus doesn't waste anything. Whatever kind of job you find yourself in, that Jesus sees that as having tremendous value and a tremendous amount of things to contribute to the kingdom of God. So I hope that's an encouragement. We're gonna miss your faces this weekend, but we are looking forward to seeing you when we get back on Sunday afternoon. And thank you to those of you who are going to be praying for us. We'll be praying for you too. We love you and we'll miss you, and we look forward to seeing your faces when we get back. Take care, friends.